as destination planners, domestically and abroad, like what we work to do is tell a story of the place. Like, why are we asking everyone to make all this effort to come celebrate with this couple they love and could hang out with, in their hometown that same weekend? Like, what's the purpose?
Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Business of Luxury Weddings podcast. We have a really good one here today, the incredible Augusta Cole from New York City. Augusta, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, we're going to get into this a little bit.
It's going to be fun. Can you just give us a quick overview of you, your business, your experience, all the things?
Yeah. So, I've been in the industry going on 15 years. I started young while I was actually in college, which is sort of fun. The industry caught me early, and it's really kind of shaped who I am today. I'm currently based in New York City, plan to be here for a while, love it. Moved here actually in 2020 from Charleston, South Carolina. So I spent the first decade of my career in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Charleston, South Carolina. As you may know, I started my career with Easton Events, which was a wonderful experience, absolutely fabulous. And then when I did start my own team and my own office, we relocated to New York City as it felt, really right in the epicenter of everything. Still intended to do lots of travel, and it's just so a hop, skip, and a jump from everywhere. And so we really put our roots down here, and we've kept a small but mighty office in Charleston as well. Our client services manager is still based in Charleston, and so we keep our Southern ties, not letting go of that for sure.
Yeah. You're global too. You're going everywhere from those bases.
Yeah. So I guess the root of our business is weddings. Primarily, that is what we dedicate our time and travel to. We take a limited number so that we can provide our clients this just really high touch, thoughtful, thorough process. And we do go on the road for most of them, whether it's outside of the city, upstate, or in Texas, or Cali, or abroad. So this year we had the opportunity to already be in St. Bart's earlier this month in early May, which was amazing, multi-day, fabulous. God, immediately infused with the party weekend because St. Bart's is that way. And then our other destinations coming up are Provence and San Miguel this year, but then the rest is domestic. Yeah.
Okay. Provence and San Miguel. Where in San Miguel and where in Provence, if I may ask? I love both.
And Provence, we're hubbed at Esteban, so an Aurel property. And then San Miguel, we're kind of bopping around, but we're rooted with the Belmont, Casa Sierra Nevada. They're wonderful there.
I love the Belmont there. It's beautiful. It's so true to San Miguel, right? It doesn't feel like you're in a modern hotel.
Yeah, and the whole casa approach that they've sort of cobbled together, these old casas around the same neighborhood, is that kind of brings out the authenticity of the place, which our clients are particularly keen on. Yeah.
Was that St. Bart's one? That's the one you did with Le Rêve with you on your team?
Yes,
I feel like I saw it looked incredible. I can feel the party.
Oh my God. The energy was palpable. I mean, the clients brought it and the guests for sure. But I think the capture that Le Rêve and Corbin did was exceptional too.
No doubt. Yeah, what a team.
Love that island. Oh, so fun.
Well, let's maybe get into that a little bit because we touched on that in the beginning here, the team that you assemble. That's huge for you, right? That's your skill set. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that is special about us and our approach is that we really take the sort of chemistry of the clients and the chemistry of the team very seriously. The clients are at the forefront of all of our decisions. So we really love to get to know our couples, our families, their goals, and then aligning them and their aesthetic and their personalities and their locations with the right people to work with us to affect the global vision is, I think, really what makes a great wedding happen and wedding weekend happen. because everybody feels kind of selected for the right purpose for them to do their job and to excel in it. So we really love to take time with those decisions, but really narrow in on unique collaborations and connections. So every project is different. There isn't one repetitive formula that we find works for every client. Instead, it's very, to use a great word, bespoke to the people we're working with. So,
how do you go about assembling that team? And what are you looking for in a photographer or videographer or a floral? Like, it obviously is based on that client's personalities, but is it more about the personalities of the vendor, or is it more about their portfolios? How do you look at that?
I think it's both. I think the end result has to relate, and that can almost be easier to purchase. Like, especially, let's talk about photography to start. There are images and portfolios out there of work that you do or do not relate to. So, when we are choosing our team and selecting who we work with, photography is a great example of how we would, make these connections. The first thing is obviously relating to the work. There's almost like a deliverable, a finished product that one can assess yay or nay. But then what we always advise our clients to do is to Zoom or connect with that photographer, the person behind the end result, before saying yes, because next to us and maybe the hair and makeup artist, they're going to be spending more time that weekend with the photographer. And you want to love those 10 and 12-hour days with that person. So that's a big decision. And I think personality and how they're going to integrate into the family dynamics and into the guest vibe and energy, like that decision is important. And you don't want to put somebody who's going to have X energy in a setting that is going to inherently demand Y. So just the end result doesn't influence the final choice. It has to also be a personality fit. I think that goes for decor as well. Like, while photography, videography, even the band is almost on the front line with the clients, and that chemistry needs to be sort of palpable. Decor also has to have a synergy, because that is who we're going to go on, the journey with to get there. And they might have more Zooms or calls or in-person meetings with them up until showtime. And they want to have like total confidence that the person that we're vouching for to align with us to affect the creative gets them, understands them. And I think that's a really sensitive decision too, because our design partners are partnering with us to take on being, the people that permeate their taste and their style of entertaining to their 100 to 500 guests. And that's a huge task. That's a big job. Got to take it seriously.
Yeah, and I love that you started with that, because I hear like photographers or designers, creatives, we're obsessed with the work. And so there's this thinking always like, if the work's amazing, we're good. And we always say to photographers we consult with, like, the work at this level should be amazing. That's a given. But being a good collaborator, being able to read the room, this is far more valuable, maybe even more valuable than the work itself. And I hear you saying exactly that, right?
Yeah, to me, it's, this is a year on average long process for us. And the party, if we did our job, they're still floating on a cloud today. Even, if something happens with weather or something unexpected, isn't exactly what they planned, they're still going to be happy. They're still going to love their picture. They're still going to love the party. But we really want everybody to look back and be like, I loved the experience. And I love the experience with each person we worked with, including, who we really talked a lot to, which is the Augusta Cole team. So,
yeah.
Don't you think the awareness of these connections to your clients has been heightened with destination work?
Yeah, I think so.
Like abroad work, like these enduring long days of working together. Like, it's not wham bam, like let's do a party and get you the pictures. It's like you're with them for the whole experience.
And it's the word you just said there, Augusta, experience, right? It came up with Jack Easton as well. It used to be that luxury, ultra luxury was just a big old money dump, like lots of flowers, lots of everything. But it's much more about experience now. Yes, they're going to spend money, but it's not about massive anymore necessarily. It's about experience. And those connections then become critical, right? It's because if that's not in place, the experience suffers.
Yeah. And I think that is, as destination planners, domestically and abroad, like what we work to do is tell a story of the place. Like, why are we asking everyone to make all this effort to come celebrate with this couple they love and could hang out with, in their hometown that same weekend? Like, what's the purpose? And that isn't, just a lot of stuff on top, like flowers and fancy food and what, like, it's the heart, it's the core, it's the underbelly of why. And I think that's the where the real effort comes into play, and it's not the obvious choices always to really tell the best stories for our couples.
I was just going to comment on, we just had this experience in Puglia of what you're talking about, where, what do we have, 4 or 5 events, and how it's so lovely to be able to just step into that first day, and it's a welcome party with lots of fun things going on, but be able to have small space where you can get to know the brother or the sister of the groom, talk quickly to the grandma, read everybody's personalities, read that room of how the interaction starts, and how that just builds through the course of, it's just, as a photographer and as a storyteller, that's invaluable, right? To the being able to tell the correct story.
Yeah. And the more you're able to put the people who are your subjects at ease, and that they're like free to have a great time, they're free to be relaxed, because like you're just there, equally enthusiastic to be there and enjoy with them. Like, I think that's so important, because no one wants to be a spectacle or just like, the object of someone's lens, or even, from our perspective, like watching a party. Like, so important that we're smiling, we're happy, we're beating to the music, we are connected to the positive energy that we're kind of creating for them. And I think that's a big part of our job, to keep it all going.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is, like, it's not just on the day, those connections. What I find is these connections are carrying over into other events, right? Like in Venice now, one of the brides, we shot her sister's wedding. And so the rapport we had with her last year in another event now is carrying over, and it's building, and it's coming into this event. And so it's like, it's part of that experience and the connection and the feeling, and like, hey, how are you? I remember you. And she remembers us, maybe James jumping off a roof into a pool or whatever. But all of that, it keeps building, and it's part of the experience, like, because guests will come to us and say, oh man, we love you guys. And they haven't seen a photo yet, but it's because there's some sort of personal connection, and they're like, oh, you're here with us experiencing this in Italy. And like, it's powerful, isn't it?
And it's such an opportunity, I mean, for us as connectors and building our businesses, to be cognizant of the guests that you're meeting, the repetition, even from event to event, to acknowledge like, hey, hope you had a really great time last night. Like, it wasn't made, like, just to create those connections. And they are sincere and genuine. It's not all strategy, but if you don't do it, it's just a missed opportunity. 100%.
It's interesting.
It's authentic, but there is strategy involved, and it can be both.
And maybe it's just effort. Like, it's not even strategy. Like, we're all working endless hours. We're up with the first install, out with the last person. Sometimes, like, being on and aglow and fluttering around the party feels like, oh, could I just like kick my feet up for a second? But I think it's in those moments where they're kind of career defining, and they really take you to the next level. So.
When you mentioned earlier that you were passionate about being a connector, and of course I immediately went to like, networking and connecting people, which I think maybe we were talking about, but now as I hear you talk, I'm like, but you're also a connector to the emotion of the event. You're trying to connect guests and clients and moms and dads to what they should be feeling, what the experience they should be having. That seems like like, how did you learn that?
Right. I think social skills of, also being a pleaser and really wanting everybody to be really happy all the time and really enjoying what they're doing. But I do think in being, if I look at one of the hats we wear, I also think we're producers. And where it is like we've seen the play, we've scripted, the scene of what we want to happen. And it's our sort of job to motivate the characters and subtly, quietly, not obviously, be sort of making sure that script is seen through, and that those experience, the emotion and the moments and the energy that our clients are expecting happens. And some of that comes with, making sure the right people are in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and as you say that, this is not you coming to the party with your own narrative. This whole vision you got from the client, right? And so now it's your task to like make this play out. This wasn't, we talk about this a lot with photography. If a client really wants unobtrusive coverage, if we give her in your face paparazzi like fashion coverage, as good as that might be, it's a miss for the client. And that's not what she wants. And so you get this from them, right?
You have to take the read. You have to read the room.
Yes.
And take the lead from what you're working for, but then also kind of what the crowd needs too. So enjoy the experience. Yeah.
It's interesting. And I love how all this conversation that we're having, it's so interwoven, because as we talk about the design and actually designing the experience for the bride and groom, designing the experience for the guests, like everything that we're talking about is part of that, right? That's the foundation of this whole experience, is like you're actually designing, not only when you think of design, we think of, putting things together, the visuals, but you're designing maybe even as far as the smells. I don't know. Like, what is the full on experience that people are going to have?
Yeah, I mean, there's the atmospheric and the tangible, and then, the pieces that are sort of organically happening around you. But yeah, I think the tangible piece is obviously, not obviously, I think kind of obviously something we really care about too. And funnily, there are a lot of amazing designers that I love to collaborate with or are inspired by, but they're so great at immediately going to the big picture. And I'd say our process probably starts much smaller, with something as simple as, a table linen that really is fundamentally important to the overall look, or often a beautiful set of china. And like that's going to then somehow sort of drive out from there and orbit the bigger decisions. Or it could be, if we are working on much bigger scale, like a room in general. That it isn't a wedding, it isn't an event, but it's an architectural interior design expression that really influences kind of where we go with the whole space.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Like, I hear a lot of attention to detail, like a lot of nuance. Do you care about the small things? So what's the motivator here? Why are you this way?
Well, that feels like a bigger question. Yeah. That's a whole nother.
But give it to us. I'm curious, because you're obviously a very particular person, right? And so this is reflected in your work and the end result and your client experience and all of that. But why? Where does this come from? Are you like this normally?
Look,
this is a hat you put on?
No, this is not an act. I don't know how don't know how to do to multiple people. But I think influence-wise for me as like childhood, like going back to kind of the things that influenced what made me happy and being surrounded by beauty. My grandmother had exquisite taste, and I referenced her before, but this very like collected, gathered, period kind of beautiful taste. And I just always loved going to her home and looking at her china collection and her silverware and her linens. And she's in her 90s now and fortunately still alive, but is still redecorating. Like she'll go to the antique store and find some bolt of fabric that she'd never seen and get so excited she needs to recover a chair in her sitting room. Like it's what drives her. It's just so special. And I think that kind of layered, tangible heirloom approach to design has just sort of been integrated in me at a young age. And then what I find is it's such a fun conversation piece with your clients. Like to understand how they entertain, to go into their homes and, literally read the room from wallpapers to, paint colored choices for more contemporary, more traditional, more old, like what influences them. And then, now in this space of so much travel with our clients, like you learn so much about them on the road. Like we had an amazing, incredible planning experience in Venice last year and really got to do some special things with our clients and go into beautiful palazzos and meet with glassmakers and dine in really unique situations. And there was so much storytelling that came out of just like how they travel and what they're attracted to. And that 1,000,000,000,000% influenced the end result. You felt just so much more connected to building on their vision because you understood them and how, like, again, kind of to the core it was, and how like these decisions are important because they reflect who they are at home as well.
Yeah, because you have this own kind of golden thread through your own life, right? From your grandma. I'm curious, did you connect those dots from a young age? Or were you more just like, ooh, I'm curious? Or did you go, ooh, I want to do something with it?
I mean, interestingly, like had I not, so I was a very exploratory, again, in college, I did a lot of different internships and I was a studious student, really hardworking, but where I was going to excel was in real life experience. So I did internships in fashion and I worked in a flower shop. I worked in development and special events. I did, different PR and marketing, like all the things, like kind of buzzwords that, career paths one should follow. Maybe fashion was a little detour, but I really enjoyed it. And none of them were like exactly it. But what's really interesting is I got a little bug for events when I was at a internship for the Cooper Hewitt National Design Museum here in the city. And David Stark had historically done the NDA gala, and I got to meet him and just like felt some like, whoa, what he's doing is really interesting. And so I sought out an internship in this field. Like, what is special events? Like, I have no idea. Like, it wasn't even weddings in my mind at that time. And I was so fortunate to pursue working for Lynn and at Easton, and started when we were just in Charlottesville, Virginia, when I was at UVA. But I think it really ended up being this career that cobbled together all the things that I was either good at or loved. So there was the creative piece, which I view as like the 20% icing on what we get to do. It's like the privilege to get to design, play with beauty. But at the core of it, we're also fundamentally therapists and counselors. Like that's something I thought about pursuing. We're accountants and, very connected to how all of the money is managed to create these parties. We're lawyers negotiating contracts and terms and advocating for and with our creative partners. And then there's this theater side of things with production and being a producer, and from the build to like set build to also the actual like directing of a show. And then you add in the pretty, it's like, what do we not do? I'm curious.
Yeah.
So
Right.
It was a career that did it all, and I love it.
But even your little fashion detour you mentioned earlier, how relevant is that now in the space you're working in? I love this story.
Incredibly.
Yeah, how you've gone about just accumulating skills, micro skills, and then macro skills, and then this and added to that. Ooh, what about that? That's just fascinating, starting with your grandmother and then just a hard worker and curious. And you're one of those people that you said, you weren't even thinking events, but you saw David Stark and you're like, I'm going to push into this, see what happens. And then,
yep. And then Lynn was an incredibly inspiring mentor. And I just have been so fortunate to kind of absorb and learn from amazing people. And then kind of in this second chapter, really get to apply my personal passions and interests and build a team that kind of we're building on these principles. And it is a team, and I am so grateful for my team. I work with the best, people in general, but my internal team, they're so hardworking, so dedicated, and such a blast to be around. So
I'm curious, did you ever sit, you talk about lots of internships. Did you ever go and just sit with your grandma and do a internship with her? Like, tell me, like, why?
I think we all need to do that. Like, interesting. An app just came through today by a friend of mine. It's all about like recording history using AI. It's something we should all like sit down and do with our seniors, our parents, our grandparents, but and ourselves. But recently, and I'm going to regret it going back and like I haven't taken more time, but this last visit with her, I did just like take a moment, and my husband sort of sweetly orchestrated the moment, and to just sit with her in the living room and ask her about like her relationship to design, which, she's in her 90s. I don't think she doesn't flatter herself an interior designer, but just a passion for decorating. But she's totally fun. In today's world with, Instagram and social, she would have blown up. She was fabulous.
Grandma would have been a thing. Yeah. Grandma would have been an influencer.
Could have and would have. But no, I think it was fun to kind of pull back the onion on that a little bit.
But it's beautiful how you are now the extension of that almost. It's like this journey,
and I
right?
Credit my mom too. She's an amazing interior, has an impeccable eye as well, no question. And that was the most immediate influence was her, but the kind of the root of it goes back to my grandma. Yeah.
Love that. You mentioned being a therapist, and I kind of feel like there's two, when we talk about wedding and planners and producers, there's kind of these two camps. Like some are going to be like, this is a logistical thing we're going to handle. And we're not going to be about the emotion. I mean, obviously you have to be, but I think some push into that more than others. It sounds like that's something that is important to you, like really helping walk a family through the process in a positive way is.
Yeah. So 100%, like I am right there in the emotional wing with them and appropriately work to keep boundaries, because it can be a slippery slope of totally opening yourselves to that role. Because we are hired to build on a vision and to manage logistically a complicated event. So, but I think being emotionally connected to our clients is definitely something I practice, and they know that when they work with me. But I will say I build a team. I also fundamentally believe that logistics are the 100% the heart of a successful event. So emotions aren't gonna build a great party. So I've made sure, like within our team, as I can't dedicate 100% of myself to logistics and 100% of myself to design and intelligently understanding our clients. So instead I'm bolstering our team with people who are truly driven by logistics and people who are also truly driven by design and emotion. So it's like, that's how we continue to scale within our team, is kind of growing on both of those strengths.
Yeah. True collaboration. And that's where the success lies, is using strengths of a team.
But I love nothing more than like a board meeting where we all go through the run of show and the logistical plan, and everybody has a role and everyone speaks their piece, and then we, set sail to operate. Like I love nothing more.
What's your favorite part of that process? Like a hamburger, I always talk about hamburger. There's a point with a hamburger where it all combine, that perfect 2-3 bites. What is that for you in this process? Is it the beginning? Is it casting that vision at the start? Is it at the end where you walk through the space? Is it somewhere in between?
Ooh, it's such a hard question. I think it's got to be the bookends. Like I love the whole journey, but there is that like fluttering, fun, we found each other moment that is so fun to build on. And then it's it's going to ebb and flow over months of positive experiences. And then that other kind of like culminating moment is like making it happen and seeing how impactful all these decisions and all the time everyone has put in can be, not just on the clients, but on their guests.
Yeah. It's incredible.
But I love it all. I'm not to be cliche. I think I'm so lucky to love my job. It's a gift. So.
No, it's a tremendous gift. Like almost every event, we look at each other and we go, man, we get to do this for a living. This is how we provide for our families. Like, I've had some bad jobs. Yeah. This is not a bad job. This is not a bad job.
There's nothing Every day is different. There is nothing systematic. I mean, there are systems that we use to run everything smoothly, of course, but there's nothing just predictable about or any given day, and that
No.
keeps it fresh and fun for sure.
No, it's funny because even when we were in Italy this last 2 weeks, two different teams, amazing teams. But the last event, especially, like opening event, was just beautiful weather, epic, incredible. And so you go, oh, tomorrow is going to be this way. And then there was a wiggle. The weather changed. And you watch this whole village just cool and calm, just go, yeah, okay, we're going this way. And everybody just went that way. And the client just laughed. And it's beautiful to watch that collaborative, that competence of a bunch of people. You just
I do find in adversity at events, that's when the guests really show their best and truest colors, because like they rally behind the couple. Like we want that to happen. We hope it happens. But that's what, it's so amazing to see. Like sometimes the best parties come out of a rainstorm. Yeah. We all know that,
But what a mindset to have in your planner, right? Where they look at adversity as like opportunity. Ooh, here's where we're really going to take this thing to another level now, as opposed to my first option was taken away from me. You're going opportunity.
You can't be rigid. Like we have to be like water. Like, yes, there's a structure around us and we have our multi-page, minute by minute run of show that we would love to just waltz through. Wouldn't it be nice? But like, these are living and breathing moments, and we can't control the weather. We can't control the world around us wherever we are, and things will happen. And if you can't kind of feed off of being reactionary and like find some adrenaline to still like complete and get to the end goal, then I sincerely think it's a test of if this is the job for you or not. And that's, when we bring like new event staff on and things, like we have to see that like palpable adrenaline on site that, when faced with something new that wasn't on their, task list, like they receive it and run with it rather than like having it throw them off course or throw their mood off or something.
I just got to say, I love how you use words. You're good at words.
I can be a little wordy.
No, but you're incredibly good at it. The way you're conveying your thoughts with it. When you several times now, I'm like, yeah, like that. That's the way to say that. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just words is hard.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking it that well. She's expressing it better than I think it. It's good stuff. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you about your strategy behind your website. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
My non-strategy strategy.
So for those of you who haven't been to AugustaCole.com, you should.
Really pretty marble.
It's really just a landing page that highlights you and a contact button. Mm-hmm. And we were incredibly struck by, and a couple of roles of Instagram, but we were struck by how immediately intriguing that was. Like there isn't really images, like there's not big header images. There's some images like you're saying on the Instagram, but we're immediately drawn in. And every time I've been there, I'm like, man, as Otto was saying, what's behind the curtain? Can you talk about that as a strategy? Is that something that was intentional? Has it turned out to be actually a useful strategy? Because from our perspective, the psychology of scarcity that goes with that is powerful.
Yeah, scarcity, discretion, like in a world where there's so much out there, isn't it a little bit alluring to not get it all right away? But I think the intention behind it was just a graceful landing page that one could build on with immediate access to what was my living portfolio, is my living portfolio in Instagram, given that, I'd spent a decade happily in a very fulfilling way producing events for another wonderful company. This was a blank slate, new start. And then as I got into it, I was like, I don't really want to expose a select number of our events and choose who gets on the website, who doesn't, and what pictures do they want. Like, let's let Instagram tell the living, breathing story, and people can kind of tune in. And, when opportunities arise to share in publications, we could do that too. But instead, just if people want to get to know us, hopefully word of mouth brought them there. Having seen imagery that they relate to brought them to that landing page, and then let's connect and talk. And it's been working for us thus far. I do get encouragement from colleagues that I admire and respect on occasion to, buckle down and do the big thing. But we're pretty happy with our landing page at the moment.
Have you had feedback from clients that
Not from clients.
that this was intriguing, or that this was not it was a negative thing, or maybe it was a positive thing?
I think, websites, and I don't want to undervalue them because they are so valuable, and for SEO positioning, for being a beautiful, well-designed expression of your work for those who have really invested in it. But I do find so many clients are going to the immediate Instagram platform, or it's referral. Like the client, it's given how much we talk about experience. I mean, I want to believe in that. It's people talking amongst their peers and finding out who's worth speaking to, given the positive reviews that they had. And so it's not a big topic of conversation, but we do have a password protected portfolio that if clients need to see more full pictures of, larger scale builds or destination events, that we will give them access to upon request.
I love that.
But that's it.
It was so impactful for me because obviously we know you and we know your work and your story. But then with the psychology of this, the moment you showed us just enough on that homepage, it's clearly a certain level. And then you pulled it away from me. And it was really like, I'm like, oh, now I want to reach out.
Yeah.
I'm not getting married, but it makes me want to look more. It's so impactful.
And I do think it's something we all need to be mindful of, is the kind of give and take, how much of these clients' events do we put out there, and how much are we doing for them, fully for them. And there is this I think we all with social and now TikTok and all the things just being so abundant, there is don't you always kind of wonder what happen when you don't get the full story, and there can be something very enticing about that. So
sure.
Yeah, I love it.
Very, very
enticing. I know we're almost out of time.
Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We're almost out of time. I know you have to run. I wanted to ask you, you have this obviously incredible foundation with Lynn, with all these internships that you've had the opportunities to learn so many different things. And then you launched after 10 years of gaining a lot of experience. But regardless of your foundation, launching is hard. But we've watched this trajectory of for you just take off. I'm curious, and mostly for our listeners, people who are wanting to take off, is there something that you could point to? I know it's layered, but is there one thing that you go if I had to point to one thing that I did, or one thing in my business that has led to success, it would be this thing? What would that be for you?
Not the Gucci glow stick.
I mean, it does work.
It might be, maybe it is.
I'm buying one.
Let's see. I think there are two things. 3 things. Can I say 3?
Sure.
3 key things.
Yeah, you can say as many as you want.
One was, bolstering yourself up and fundamentally believing in yourself, and having spent a decade really dedicated and working on for and under and with another company, that took energy and effort, and to hear my cheerleaders and people who believed in me to say, you can do this on your own. And if you don't believe it, it won't happen. So number one is you gotta get there mentally and to take the leap. And then set sail to make yourself unique and different. And you have to self-evaluate. What is it about you that's worth hiring? What is it about you that's worth going out on your own to bring something new to this industry? And hone in on that because being a step and repeat isn't going to get you anywhere. You've got to figure out your own secret sauce and work on that. And I did a whole kind of exercise of like, what is that? What do I want to be? And did little mood boards and define them with a word that related to kind of what I want the ethos of this Augusta Cole business to be. And that was a task that one of my friends who is in advertising advised me to do. And it was a great exercise. And then the third thing would be to take risks. And one of those risks was being okay to, in COVID, when nothing was happening, to take on smaller projects that might not be where your end goal is, but are going to allow you to work your muscles, stretch this, desire to build on what you want to build on. And I did a couple really intimate weddings that allowed me to do this like layered residential kind of interior design focused approach to a party. And those images are still images I'm proud of and confident of today, even though they're on a kind of smaller scale. And those three things I think were fundamental in being able to launch in any capacity.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's a formula for success. Like if you're willing to follow it, I think it's amazing advice.
Mic drop moment. Let's leave.
That's right.
Let's go on with our day.
Just out.
Your Gucci Westman glow sticks en route, Otto. I'll get you one.
Oh man, I want one so bad. But really though, your thoughts are so clear. They're precise. You know exactly who you are, what you want. Like, it's no wonder you have this level of success. And like, yeah, you clearly have some ways to go.
Working hard, all pedaling, all
of that.
I think the minute you say like, yeah, I'm so successful, I feel like is the beginning of
the down.
I just think we're all climbing and working hard and gotta love the ride. Not to be utterly cliche, but you do have to love the ride.
Yeah. And if everybody now all of a sudden has one-page websites, it's Augusta Cole. She did it. She started that trend.
Designers out there, I love you.
Sorry.
Or hate you. It's like, I just want a one-page design, please.
No. I mean, I still love you. I'm the rogue one. Yeah. Don't follow my lead.
But to the idea of taking risk, like you say, push. I mean, who knows if that really actually has a huge impact or not? But there is a risk in saying, "Hey, I'm going to put up a one pager, and people can like it or not." But you're willing to take it, and so far it looks like it's working.
Well, thank you. And guys, this was so much fun. I love this platform. It's great to talk to two of you. I really appreciate being invited. This was a really a fun afternoon.
Lovely to have you.
Seriously, learned so much. Thank you, Augusta.
I'll figure out my own black and white filter next.